you said? Dang, I couldn't.
I'd like to call this special meeting in our next budget workshop to order, and to please have the clerk take the roll call.
Mayor Ron?
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Emery?
Here.
Trustee Fleming?
Here.
Trustee Forsley?
Here.
Trustee Klebanow?
Here.
Trustee Scott?
Here.
Trustee Seneca?
Here.
Manager Searle?
Here.
Finance Director Von Boggett?
Here.
Police Chief Mulhern? Economic Development Director and Assistant Manager Kimball? Deputy Police Chief King? Public Works Director May? Fire Administrative Officer Scala? Human Resource Administrator Casey? Police Administrative Assistant Rice? Fire Chief Trout? Budget Analyst Parker?
Here.
Deputy Clerk and Finance Clerk Kamek.
Thank you. Finance, pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Takes me back to my childhood. That's the way we said it growing up.
Lisa would like to start this meeting again by going back over each and every one of these areas to find out if there's any further questions or any other changes. And then the manager
Actually, if I could just jump in real quick.
requested
Yeah.
conversation.
We would like, following the open session, a executive session for personnel for some discussion. I'll turn this over to Lisa in a minute. I just wanted to point out a couple of documents that the board has received tonight. We have prepared, based on the conversations that we've had to date, a revised list of immediate reductions in the fund summary sheets that you have, as well as a second list of things that we as staff are recommending for your consideration from, these are all from the level 2 proposed reductions. So I think Lisa's going to kind of talk us through that here in a minute. The other thing I wanted to mention is, just for information purposes, to follow up on the conversation last week on the vehicle replacement plan, there's a couple of documents we passed out, a memo from our Director of Public Works, as well as, I believe, there was some discussion with the board asking about our fleet, a number of vehicles in our fleet, and there's a document that was passed out here, a graph that shows you a little bit of historical perspective. And that's what I wanted to say, and Lisa, if you want to take over and kind of take us through
Mayor Ron,
this.
did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
No, Lisa. Go ahead.
Okay, first I want to go to section 10 and point out, that's the sheet that Ron just talked about with the vehicle replacement. What we have here are two charts explaining by department the number of vehicles that we had prior to starting, or when we began the vehicle replacement program. In 2007, we had 105 vehicles broken down into the 5 different departments that have vehicles: Public Works, IT, Police, Fire, and Economic Development. As you can see, from 2007 through 2011, our current fleet has dropped by 12 vehicles. And actually, if you look, it has been 4 in each of the major departments. So Public Works went down from 42 to 38, which is a number 4 reduction. Fire went down from 27 to 23, which is a reduction of 4, and Police went down from 31 to 27, which is also a reduction of 4. So we did, across the board, we were able to reduce the fleet in all of our departments. At the bottom, the second one shows the difference between the new and continued use vehicles, which we've also seen a decline in both of those categories as well. So not only do we have 8 less continued use vehicles that we have in service, but we've also reduced our new fleet that we purchase by 4, from 79 to 75. Just some additional data, as Ron said, some things that were brought up in discussion and requests by various board members for additional information in those departments. Okay, if we can go back to section 1, I want to go to the, draw your attention to the fund summary sheet. And we do have an updated sheet, and I'd like to make a couple of explanations on this. What you see is we have a net, projected net right now of $110,915. Budgeted revenues of $18,655,025, and our expenses are now down to $18,765,940. A couple of the things that we have in here, that we have in the green line and the red lines that make up those numbers include, as we've had in here from the beginning, the additional revenue from the gas tax of 2.5 cents of $427,500. We have an updated number on consolidated dispatch for our half year. This number is a little more realistic with our final figures that we've gotten, and we do have some options that we need to discuss for that, but we feel realistically that we can realize a $70,000 savings this current fiscal year. That was at 100, and after looking at the scenarios as we got closer, we realized that probably wasn't, that was a little bit wishful, that wasn't realistic, so we dropped that down to 70, which we feel very comfortable with now. We also have additional expense reductions that we will talk about of 120,000. So it leaves our projected net at 110,915. We have updated the expense comparison, so you can see from last fiscal year to the proposed fiscal year where we're at. And then if you can go to the second section in section 1, the preliminary cuts and considerations. As Ron mentioned, we have an updated immediate reductions and items for discussion. The immediate reductions now are the things that we've discussed at the 3 meetings that we've had direction from the board to do. So you can see the items that were discussed and the amounts that remain, the items that were removed, and any comments for any items that had explanations or got moved to the committee level. We did add back in the tire balancer and changer as directed, so we did see a total savings of all of these items of $53,343. So those were taken out of the budget. We then have at the bottom the items for discussion that remain from the last meetings where no decision was made, but they were items that the board felt that they would like to possibly revisit. So we do have those numbers there as well. The next sheet is a yellow sheet. And what this is after we went back and looked at where we were after the 3 meetings and saw that there was still some work that needed to be done with reducing that deficit at a staff level, we went back and looked at all of the items that we had on our pink sheets, our level 2 items for consideration, and wanted to offer up to the board these changes to help reduce that 110 that we're currently at. We got to 104,323 with the items that we felt from a staff level would have the least negative impact on operations and allow us to continue to provide the services at or close to the level that we're currently at with the least amount of reduction there. So I'll go over these items and explain each of them. They're all still on the pink sheets, as well as the other ones that we had for the total, some of which we'd already discussed and either removed or have been placed on the items for consideration or immediate reductions or the items for discussion. So in Public Works, we had an elimination of 3 small uniform amounts. We had a market adjustment for maintenance worker ones that we customarily, we will look at a market adjustment and make that if we feel it's necessary. We feel at this time we can probably hold off on that. That's not taking any money away from anybody because they have not gotten this increase. So we felt we could take that out, eliminating the Tree City USA $2,500, and then postponing the preventative maintenance on the terrazzo flooring and the carpet cleaning, as well as reducing the building rug services, and that's throughout. In police, the suggestion that we have made, which you'll notice that the majority of these, I mean, they do not have to do with full-time employment. It's always the last thing, the board's direction and staff, that's the last thing that we want to discuss or make any cuts to. The reason that there is a full-time eliminating 1 police officer is that this is one of the vacancies in the police department, and discussing it with the department staff, feeling that hiring 1 of the 2 vacancies would really help, and that they'd be okay with then holding off on that second one that's currently in the budget. So we would go ahead with replacing one of the full-time officers, wait on the second one, and then we have made the adjustment to keep the part-time community service officer through April, so that position would remain. So all of the things then with the basic training and the insurance relate to only hiring one of the 2 police officers. The other equipment reduction were the AR-15 rifles that were discussed, and then small amounts of supplies, miscellaneous supplies for cruise and nights, open house, and just general supplies. In finance, we've got the reduction of supplies for office supplies, the budget binders. We've reduced some of our associations, employees will pay for these out of pocket. And then one of our publications that we get, a payroll source that we'll postpone for a year. In IT, we are reducing, we're actually eliminating the IT contractor, all of the network, the service hours, so all of the IT work. So there'll be no preventative maintenance. He won't be doing any of the preventative maintenance for keeping the equipment going. So we will shift that to the employees that remain. This is the contractor's hours. In legislation and administration, there's a reduction basically in dues and in conferences and training. All the small amounts that we discussed, these would be eliminating. So the IPELRA conference, the last of the DuPage mayors and managers meetings, Rotary, ILCMA, SHRM, and the IQ reports. We also have conferences and training for legislation, the Economic Outlook Lunch for 5, and eliminating the village staff Christmas luncheon. In fire, there's an elimination of the birthday party supplies for 300, suppression items for 1,000, station upkeep for 1,000, the Mustang suit, ice all gloves, and then the in-state chiefs conference for 2,000. All those items equal $104,323. The sheet that's after that is just a supplemental explanation of where the police department's sworn personnel comparison has been and a timeline of that. It got confusing last year with being down 2, but they were in the budget and then not replacing them. So what we tried to do was put together a timeline of what happened and where we've been. We were at what we had considered at that time, full, it's not our full authority, but where we had been essentially full staffed. As of 4/1/2009, there were 5 sworn personnel in administration, 6 in detectives, 29 in patrol, for a total of 40. On 4/12/2009, we had an officer that was taken out of patrol for disability, who then later retired. So the officer was never back on the street after the disability. So at that point in time, administration was at 5, detectives were at 6, patrol went down to 28, and the total was 39. We then had the former Chief Ramey announced his leaving on 5/8, so administration went down to 4, detectives was still at 6, patrol remained at 28, so our total went down to 38. Currently, since we have done the promotion, we have administration in 5, detectives went down to 5, patrol stayed at 28, for the total of 38. We didn't hire anybody, it was merely moving positions, but street didn't lose anybody. What we're proposing now with the 1 additional person, and this is in accordance with the police's staff recommendation, what they would like to do, is propose that administration stay at 5, that a new patrol officer be hired when they're done with the full-time, with the FTO program. One of the people would be promoted from patrol back up to detectives, so patrol would be back at their 28 where they have been for over a year, and the total would be up at 39, and detectives would have their 6 back again. And that's the suggestion of the staff at the police department. So that kind of explains where that's at. Those are our updates. I'm sure you all have questions and comments.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment that the list that we provided is really there to kind of focus the discussion. We don't want to be presumptuous in terms of what the board would like to remove on, if anything, off of level 2. But we felt that we should at least provide something for discussion.
Kind of a prioritization, or where we were feeling about the items that were still left on there. And a lot of that came from discussion that we had where we knew that the board members had made comments about certain items, so we felt, okay, you know, that seems to be important, we agree, we're not gonna put that on the yellow list.
Well, I would like to report that I've heard from several of my mayors that I work with in Lake County, and we were discussing what they had heard about this proposed ding that we're going to get from Springfield, which we're all, you know, wondering. The Lake County legislators in Springfield are telling the mayors and managers in Lake County that Springfield has pretty much figured out finally that to reduce budgets by municipalities will cause a disaster statewide. So it looks, they're sending the message back that they will not reduce the payments that the municipalities expect. Income tax will likely go up, and we will not see any portion of the income tax raise, but we'll stay where we were on the distributions from, you know, so, because everybody was like, where do we cut, you know, 600 to $1 million? And they finally have gotten the message that we can't without, you know, just turning off the lights. So I thought that was pretty encouraging, so I wanted to pass that along. I've gone back through the budget line by line. I think that, before I forget, Lisa Spencer, everybody in your department, you once again have done a superb job at this, and it is greatly, greatly appreciated. Normally, a lot of times, things are presented where people muddle through and they have no clue what they're doing and they don't, you know, want to look stupid, but you guys have made it where, you know, it's very, very readable and understandable. That said, I was also encouraged by this year, we came in where we did not have to dip into our reserve fund to the tune of what, 370?
390, yeah.
390. We are very close. You know, we've talked about we have to get that gas tax on board to get that anticipated revenue. We're very close at 110. I don't, personally, I don't want to go down to zero because I think things are going to be well, and we do have what I would call a cushion in our reserve funds. There are some things that I don't want to see cut. Some things I think we can, and I appreciate everybody's department stepping up to the plate. But a couple things real quick. Steve, in Public Works, if carpet cleaning and rug service means Irma's going to have a stroke because it will mean the possibility of more trip and falls, because we know what happens when weather mats start to deteriorate and ends curl up, and that's why they're continually changed out, one of the reasons beside aesthetics. If that is a possibility, I would not like those cut out, because then we pay in the end much more than what those are.
Good point.
I'll say quickly, and in this particular item, it says it's a reduction, so I think it's, I'd have to check with Mike, but I'm sure it's a reduction in the quantity that we're actually going to have, and there won't be as many places probably at the primary one. As far as Irma, it was very interesting that last week I was at it was at American Public Works Association workshop, but actually our Irma rep was there too. And even though it was about a variety of things, prevailing wage rates and liabilities and things like that, but one thing they touched on was, ironically, it was about rugs and mopping, and they actually said that tracking in what are natural accumulations of precipitation, there's a reasonable expectation on the user to know that it might be more slippery. So from the liability point of view, that's not there. That doesn't mean anybody likes, you know, leaving wet floors and things like that. It would still involve mopping and things, but the liability end of it, you know, we could we would be guarded against.
Sort of.
Right. Doesn't mean the claims won't be made, but that was how they explained the tort, liability.
Yeah. We'll discuss police in executive session on personnel. Frank, Mustang suit, ice-alls and gloves, suppression items. Does any of this have the possibility of jeopardizing if another incident were to happen, such as what happened on Richmond and 63rd?
We added that Mustang suit to be possibly eliminated. The Mustang suit is the new rescue suits that the firefighters got into on the way over to the pond. We're able to pull them up quickly. They keep the person above water. There are special devices on them for the ropes and the poles so that we can get people out and get the rescuer out also. But we do have other suits available. And so that's why it was put up.
So would this be an
the
additional
possibility.
suit, or is this a replacement suit, or?
What we're doing is we have a suit called the Gumby suit,
Right.
and it would be a replacement to the Gumby suit.
It's an upgrade to that, or?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think if we leave in any AR-15s, we leave in Mustang suits.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Are you sure?
I'm done arguing.
Have you given up on that? Have you given up on that?
Did you say you were hoarse from arguing?
And then just for the rest of my 2 cents, the items for discussion, if those, on our items for discussion with the Senior Citizen Council, they're in there now, still leaving us with just over $100,000 that we don't balance. I don't want to see that cut, and I know the Citizens Advisory Group recommended cutting it. I don't agree. As far as the Public Information Coordinator, I think Larry does a good job with what he does. I went back through his lengthy, not even a self-evaluation, but almost a self-critique. I think he earns his money. The only thing that I would like to see is a decrease in the amount produced of the calendars and newsletters, and if we can cut in the distribution of same, but not cut into Larry's contract. That's all I have.
A question on the Senior Citizen Council, that 17,000 that's up for discussion, that's reduced, right?
That is reduced over what we paid 2 years ago, and we kept it the same, I believe, from a year ago.
Okay, so it's.
They
what we
are
gave-
asking for more than this, but
Yeah.
we kept it
Okay.
static.
Okay.
Part of the discussion on the Senior Citizen Council, which I'm sure you're well aware of, is we have a high percentage of individuals in Westmont
We
that are
deliver a lot of
receiving
meals
their
right here in
services
town.
in comparison to some of the other towns in the area.
I mean,
That's-
we've cut some of the chamber funding. And I know this may not be a popular thing to do, but can we add some of that back into the senior council stuff?
I mean, it's right here, it's still listed as remaining, I think I'm looking at the current one, remaining Chamber of Commerce external funding at 58.
No, it's down to 40, it's down to 45.
No, what's remaining is 45.5, and
45.
we've taken out
Okay.
12.5.
It's in the longer
Right.
one, all right.
Yeah, it's the most updated sheet.
Yeah, there it is.
What about-
Okay.
She does have
I have it, it's the front page.
What, we could look at that, but what about the combined board meetings at 17,820? Okay, so we take that out.
And there were a couple assumptions that we made on here. First of all, rather than having 2 meetings a month, it would be every other week. So going from 24 you currently have 48. Rather than going to 24, it would be 26. So you always had, it was every other week. And then we took into consideration that it would be effective July 1st to give some time into the current fiscal year, or upcoming fiscal year.
And to address Trustee Klebenau's concern about not having an opportunity to review things, we would implement kind of a first and second reading system where everything would appear on the agenda once, wouldn't be voted on until the next meeting. The exception would be finance ordinances, purchase orders, and anything that the board would agree is non-controversial. You could always waive that. But a lot of communities use that kind of concept of first and second reading. And that would give you essentially 2 weeks between when it first appears and you actually vote on the item.
Gives you more time than just a weekend.
That'd be good.
Now, Trustee Fleming, were you saying that to add more money to the DuPage Senior?
Yep.
Well, if we save 17,000 from the board, and we do that with the board meetings, okay, couldn't we add, what were they asking for?
25,
I think it was over 30.
Oh, I thought it was 25.
Now, last year we gave them 17, and the prior year I
Look it up.
was 22 or something?
Well, take,
Okay, if-
I
I
mean,
mean,
so
the
in
bottom
other
line,
words,
if-
maybe we only
if-
save 10,000, we put 7,000, so it's a 24,000 for the seniors if we
Yeah.
want to do that. and-
Yeah, that we don't put the whole thing,
Right.
because we may not be able to
Yeah.
keep it at just, 2 meetings a month, but we can
I
at
think,
least
I think,
take part of it.
I think they still, that's one program that I believe money needs to be put back into. I feel very strong about that. I mean, you've heard so many villages have basically cut that funding out completely. And I don't think it'd be proper, so I think we ought to put that in. The other thing that I was looking at the level 2 on the recommendations for reductions, I understand everything that goes on and I appreciate it, but if our employees aren't worth $3,000 for a Christmas luncheon, I think there's something seriously wrong. They don't have the Christmas party anymore. A lot of the other things are gone.
Yeah, the picnic and everything.
I believe, I mean, I'm sorry, but, I mean, honestly, our employees are worth a lot more than that, okay? But to take that away, I think would be criminal. And that's my opinion on that one. I mean, it's a far cry from what it used to be. But, I mean, so far, we've gotten a little grinchy with the wreaths and everything else, I mean, I don't know, what's everybody's opinion on that
I
one?
agree with you.
Go back, yeah.
What's the turnout for it?
It was poor.
This is the first year we had done it the way we did it. We had budgeted 5,000, the cost came in about 3,000. I don't know if we have an account, but it was, kind of a come and go kind of thing.
An open house.
And from talking to different people that were there at different times, they thought that it was fairly well attended, given the way it was set up. But I couldn't tell you an exact number. I don't know if we know.
No, you know what, it was brought to our attention that we probably should have, I think trustee Seneca had said that we probably should have kept a little tally, because we didn't require people to RSVP. It was like an open house all day at the fire department, in the afternoons, so we didn't keep a tally of it, but, people from departments, a couple people
Well,
came.
and I think, if we at least leave the money in the budget, we can revisit what we've done and what we want to do, but we'll know we have something to do, we have money to do something with.
And we
Be it a
learned,
Jewel gift
we-
card or a luncheon or whatever it is, we'll have something we can do for the employees. Did we leave in, I'm looking, I can't find it, volunteer appreciation?
Yes.
Yes.
We left that in?
Yes, the volunteer
Okay, good.
WSEC event is still in
Great,
there.
it's got to be in there.
Yeah. When we went over the list, we knew that that was something that seemed important to the board, that everyone was in favor of leaving that in, so we did not put that on the yellow list.
Right.
As far as, Steve, as far as the land improvement with the trees, you're just cutting that budget down by 2,500 more?
That's eliminating it. It's already been reduced, and that's the list.
Those are the new trees, right?
Yes.
Those are new trees.
Replacements for anything that had to be cut down, but it would essentially, we already have material for Arbor Day this Friday, but that would be it for the year.
Boy, we are cutting the bones, aren't we?
can't see you, the lights are off. Sue, is it you?
I couldn't afford a PowerPoint tonight either.
Who is that over there?
If you're looking for agreement, I agree with trustee, with everything that's been said.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. What trustee Emery has brought up, what trustee Fleming.
So I'm gonna
So if you
kind of,
wanna synopsis that and.
yeah, I was gonna start to go through and maybe talk about some of the items that have now just been mentioned by a couple people, unless Trustee
make great
Scott, Trustee
comments,
Klebanow,
no.
anything. And if we can get a general consensus, just to leave it, stay, do this, we'll kind of go through. So we've talked about the Tree City USA. I'm assuming we're gonna keep that cut?
Yeah.
Okay, so that stays as a cut. What about the rug service?
That was reduced, from what I understood, right?
So we're keeping it reduced by that 5,000, okay? The AR-15s, are we putting those back in as long as we put the Mustang suit and the ice alls back in?
I think the reduced AR-15s. It prolongs the replacement, but for right now, reduced is better than Zippo.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Instead of 4, 2?
It'll be 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Just,
Can live
just,
with that.
just one new trigger assembly a year, that's it.
Okay.
One bullet
AR 7.5s.
for Tom's pocket.
And then the Mustang suit and ice alls, are we gonna put those back in
Those
then?
are in.
Those are
And I guess
keeping?
the Sparky suit wouldn't work for a Mustang suit, huh?
Those go back into the budget. Those
You know, we got
stay in the
Sparky
budget.
suit.
Okay, so we're not gonna be putting those, Spencer. Okay. The other thing, the Christmas luncheons, I'm getting the idea that that's staying in.
That's staying.
I'm okay with that.
Just a comment, the IT contractor with the preventative maintenance, that's something that I would like to see us eliminate as suggested, but I think it's also something we're going to have to really, really monitor.
Well, we are, and.
Because when,
Yeah.
it takes one bad thing, and, we've saved 4,200, but it's cost us 10 grand.
We will continue to keep up on the preventative maintenance as much as possible, and you'll notice that on our list, we
Here
have,
comes Glenn.
we did have the virtual server and the virtual desktops. We actually kept those 2 items in because that helps us in this effort, because that's really where we're going with this. If we can get this virtualization, it will automatically cut down on this. So
Good.
rather than being short-sighted and getting rid of the 2 items that were worth more money this year and keeping this in, we decided to go the opposite, because in the long run, we'll be able to handle this. It's a smarter financial decision in the long run to
Good.
do what we're doing right this way. Did I misstate anything?
Nope, that's correct.
Good. As long as you're okay with it.
Yeah. It's the direction we need to move.
Good.
With the senior citizen, that's going to go up by the
Yeah.
amount that we reduced from,
A portion, no, you're saying.
Portion of it.
A portion of the, was what I'm getting, of the combining the board meetings. So what we're saying is we're going to remove the board meetings by the 17,820, move to the combined board meetings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then what portion of that? I heard 7,000 to 24.
I was just throwing out a number, I don't.
No, I
Okay.
think that makes
Whatever.
sense.
I think that's good.
Because it leaves us wiggle room that if we have to go back to.
So we're going to
And
add
they-
7,000 on there to make that 24,000.
4,000.
They will be
Okay.
ecstatic. In my conversation with her last week, she was just very hopeful that we would give at least what we gave last year. So
That'll be nice, a nice bonus.
this will be a nice surprise for them.
And there's still a savings there of over $7,800, so
Yeah.
that's still significant with being able to add that back in.
Planning and Zoning Commission advertising is gonna be at 12,000 now.
Yeah, have we decided to make any changes, or is that something we want to move to A&F committee and continue to look at?
Yeah, I think so. I
think if we can,
administration and
if we can look
finance should
at-
look at it.
Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I was just going to say, I
That's fine.
think we shared with the board the memo that Shannon Malik put together last week to show the comparison on various individual ads to be placed, and whatever the board's pleasure is, that's,
Well, this one that it is right now is still,
It has not been touched.
it's still practice.
Yeah, the 12,000 remains in there. That was just an item for discussion. So we could move that to an A&F committee, and if the board chooses at that point in time to make some change, they could do that.
And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 12,000 was a reduction just based on the lower level of activity with the same advertising.
Correct, not changing the advertiser or the paper in which we send them out.
The only thing I think trustee Klebanow brought up is we need to look at where we put it in what paper, because like you said, if you put, was it Wisconsin, I think you brought up? I mean, I don't know what legality part that we would have to put it in a certain newspaper that surrounds the
Supposedly,
community.
it's supposed to be legal, but whether,
Well, you want to do it right, though. You morally, ethically, you want to do it the right way and let people
I saw the Daily
know.
Herald at the newsstand. I went in there and looked and.
They sure do. They'll deliver it too.
So that you can
Some people get
discuss at the
We can
committee
discuss
level.
that.
We haven't changed
can always
anything.
lower it.
Right, so if you decide to make a change and it's less expensive, that's okay. If not, we're proceeding at the level that we feel we're at for the need for the advertising in the same paper that we currently use, which is more expensive, we know.
We started a few years ago posting on the property, which we're not required to do when there's going to be a zoning
In certain
hearing.
cases, trustee, we are required to
We are?
give statutory
Okay,
notice.
because I know we've
yeah.
just started that a few years ago.
And it's good practice to put that sign up
Well,
there.
I mean, that's
The-
one
The
more
little
way
light
of-
goes off for people, oh, what's that sign? And they'll call us and say, what's coming up, and we can, read them.
One more way of getting the word out.
Yeah.
Which is good.
now, when it comes to the publication, though, technically, aren't we getting reimbursed for the person that this is? When they come, it's part of their fees.
They pay some fees, trustee, and in most cases, that kind of offsets, not always, though. For example, if we charge $500 for a change in zoning classification, and then we have to publish in that, that's supposed to be roughly equal, and we think it is, in terms of the cost that we incur to advertise for that.
See, that would bother me then, changing to a paper, because if somebody's paying a fee, so it gets advertised, because legally they have to do it, and then we set it off to some newspaper that is not really around here that most people don't read. Now, maybe they prefer it that way too, but I just don't think it's right. We should be getting reimbursed by all this publication. It should be working itself out and going
Well,
to
they
zero.
should be paying exactly what it's costing us, to the penny.
I think they should be itemized and said, this
Yeah.
is what we had to pay to put it in the paper,
good point.
and this is what we had to do.
And we
this,
should
and we
collect
should
that amount.
itemize it and collect it, and
And that, that's something we could also talk
You
about.
figure staff time in there too?
Yes, we do. We may be a little bit behind the times in there, trustee, so it might not be a bad idea for us to reassess the dollar amount of staff time that's going into those computed fees. But trustee Klebanow is absolutely right. That's the definitional
Really good
difference
point.
between a tax and a fee.
We'll talk about that at the
Yeah.
finance committee.
It's going to be a long finance meeting.
Oh, we'll have to spread them out. We're not, they're not all going to be on one agenda.
Sounds good.
well, let's hope then we can do a break even a little closer on that, and then we shouldn't have to worry. I mean, if things, what I'm thinking of is things pick up, it should be paying for itself. If things slow down, we budgeted the 12, we actually should have the 12 in there, because, by the time the people come in and use the 12, it should be taken care of. The only thing we would be charged for is when we decide to make some changes and we have to go into planning and zoning, if we want to check on our own ideas on doing it, especially when we start getting into the future planning with what we budgeted in for.
And we've been kind to ourselves. When it's a village-initiated change, we don't charge ourselves the fee.
Well, that's when we can go, I guess, up to another newspaper that's
Yeah,
not in
that's
town, I guess. I don't know.
There's a revenue generator for you, Fred.
Difference putting it in a decent publication versus
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
questionable publication too.
I'm confused. I know that's not a surprise to you guys, but. Then wouldn't the planning zoning advertising just be zero? Wouldn't that be a wash? I mean,
It should be.
if we're taking in, if it's costing us 12,000, but we're taking in the money,
But we don't
Show it as
know
an
that right now.
Budget.
still shows it
You've got
as.
Yeah, you got
revenue.
cash
Right.
Revenue side.
Oh, okay.
So you
Because it's not necessarily a wash all the time.
We've already budgeted for the lower revenue. Now we've got a budget for the
For
lower
lower
expenses.
expenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron, on the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, we've gone from what, 30,000 now down to 20,000?
Yes.
You talked to Skip Strittmatter today. Was that
She,
part of your conversation?
well, she called today to ask how the discussion was going at the board level regarding their request. We talked about the fact that the amount's lower, but it's lower because it's based on a revenue formula. She understands that.
Okay.
It's driven by the amount of hotel motel tax that we get, and the formula is applied against that.
Okay. Larry Forsberg is on that board,
He is.
and he looks out for our,
He sure does.
looks out for the village and whatever advertising he can get, promotions for the village, he makes sure that's done. So I know there have been questions numerous years on the expense for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, but I think we're getting probably more from that now than we did before Larry was on that board.
Okay.
We got to continue to promote the businesses all throughout the community.
Yep.
Right,
The only way you get out of this
exactly.
situation.
Yep.
Is there anything else that I missed on the yellow sheet in terms of staying or going that I skipped over?
I don't think so.
I think you've got it.
No, I think that's just.
But it's a reduction. Because it's confusing.
Spencer, do we have an updated total now with the changes that we just made?
Right now, we've moved up from 104,000, so we just added about, so we had the 110.
Uh-huh.
We had the 104 on the yellow sheet. We've added another about $6,000 in reductions.
So it's at 110?
Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Okay.
So we added things back in, but taking things out in terms of the changing the board meetings has actually gotten us better.
Lisa?
Isn't that a
got
good
one
thing?
more.
Yes,
One-
Sue,
well,
you've got a question?
Almost better.
Almost better?
Dues and subscriptions, the Rotary, what is that exactly?
That's my membership
That's Ron's membership.
I think that needs to stay in.
contract.
I think Ron needs to be involved in Rotary. I think we all benefit by that.
Any objections to adding back in the $780? Well, that's just gonna blow us right out of the water now, isn't it, Spencer?
We're okay.
Still all right.
Still okay?
In the board reduction decisions for IML and Chamber of Commerce activities, you've got mayor only, and we had discussed last time about adding Ron's fees, the cost for Ron to go back in.
Yes, we have added back in the cost for Ron as well as for Fred into their individual items.
Oh, into their department?
Yeah, so in the legislation account,
Okay,
where it has the IML, it is the mayor only.
okay,
In their individual departments,
okay.
they're added.
Just
And
checking.
our HR director has a question.
You should know better.
The Safe Art Shaw update is usually the legislative update on all the legislation that has been passed that has to do with collective bargaining and human resources. And so I'd like the board to consider not letting that one go. That's under conferences and training, under legislation and administration.
So is that a newsletter, or is that?
No, it's actually a full-day conference that I attend,
It's a workshop.
yes.
Is it possible to get the information other than going to that workshop?
No, they usually, you attend the workshop and they give you a disc and a binder, and you get all the information by attending that.
Don't you get all that from IML?
Well, you get it in various pieces. I think what Kathy is suggesting is it's a comprehensive one-stop, here's the information. But the information's available through multiple other sources, but you just don't get it comprehensively. And you don't get the interpretive
Yeah.
aspect that you do at the conference.
That's the other thing, too. There's attorneys there, and they explain the different legislation, and they explain to you what you need to do when you go back to the office.
So the total cost on that is $300, Kathy?
Not exactly. I don't know what the exact total is, but it's
Close to that.
So it's like a registration
I don't
fee.
think Safe Art charges $300 a piece.
Is that the one that's in Galena?
No,
No, that's,
that's been at the Q Center the
Is this
last
local?
couple of years.
It's a one-day.
So it might not even be
Yeah,
that
it's
much, is what
downtown.
Ellen's
Take the
saying.
train down, yeah, it's downtown at the Chicago office.
If there's value, I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a lot of use out of it, I can see putting it back in. I just didn't, how many people go? Do you,
Just me.
just you? Okay.
Check on the registration.
Yeah, let's look into it.
So putting that back in?
Well, put in what the registration fee is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, if it's not 300.
yeah, maybe it's only,
You
I
know,
don't know.
because I don't think Safe Earth charges that much for a one day. That's
You gotta look it up,
astronomical.
watch.
so that'd be good. Okay.
They use it for marketing.
Oh, that's right, yeah, get business. Okay. I think we're really done.
Lisa, could you
Maybe
tell me where the, just real quick, you mentioned that we had talked about the personal flotation devices being added to the rest of the gear in the squad cars. Can you tell, and you said it's already in here?
It's actually coming out of funds in the current fiscal year.
Oh, this
okay.
budget
Yes,
year.
our current budget year. The amount was minimal, and there was excess funds in like equipment or supplies, and there's no problem with, it was a very small amount of money, so there was no issue with them. Or I talked to Deputy Chief Gunther about it about 2 weeks ago.
How many is it?
I believe there was one for each squad.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
little muscle things.
Yes, so we're going to the dollar store to buy the blow-up kind.
I don't think the chief gets one, so I brought the chief's.
Did you?
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's minimal, the cost is.
It's not as good as what the other guys have, but they're first responders. You're usually later
Yeah.
on the scene.
Ellen, the color is good, because if
is.
it's nighttime,
Is that the proper size
yeah.
around your neck, Tom?
It's adjustable. Let out some air.
Yeah, it could work. It could work.
I'd like to thank the camera operator for not zeroing in.
Like a Ford Mustang? It's a Charger.
Hey, we could put that on Sparky, and then you'll have a Mustang suit. Isn't his name Sparky, the dog? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, McGruff. Sparky. Oh, Sparky's the. Okay.
Any other direction, comments?
We go into executive session.
The top part on your fund summary, has that also included what was on this yellow page?
No, the 110, now, that 110 would be nothing, next to nothing.
That's what I was wondering, so that's what we've done, is we've
Right,
got that down.
right. When we.
A few things we keep up in there.
Right, when we saw the $110,000 there, we went back, and that's when we started, going through what we could to try to get as close to possible to the 110, and so we came up with 104. So now, once we put in the items on the yellow sheet that we've been directed, we will be at close to zero.
So we are,
897
We'll be at 897 deficit or over?
deficit.
Oh,
dollars?
897, yeah.
$897.
It's the Mustang suit, I believe, in the alls, isn't that right about it?
That's okay, we'll take them.
Since we're considering, we've
Wow.
got several things that we're considering on the
Yes.
Administration Finance Committee, I'm sure we'll be.
Right, you've got things going to A&F committee that, during the year, if there are any changes made, then you would see additional savings on top of that. And
Wow.
probably, I won't lose any sleep over $897. 800, and Fred's got his. Fred's got his 20s.
You know, he gave that 20 back, and and over here at the end of it.
$20 subscriptions you gave up.
Good job.
On the information that you heard from the mayors up in Lake County, did they indicate at all when the notification on that could be coming forth from somebody in Springfield?
No, they're still duking out when the notification about the income tax hike is gonna come out. But we're not supposed to know that.
Take a look at
Still don't trust them.
so, but that,
Legislative leaders are still saying May 7th. I'll believe it when I see it.
May 7th. Okay. Thank you.
we're going to executive session.
What's next?
I believe adjourning to executive session.
Nothing more to,
Yeah, no, I have no closing arguments or statements to make.
So moved.
I can't make the motion.
I was really,
Oh, yeah.
other comments?
Well, I just did.
Questions
I
from
heard
anyone?
you
printed
too.
it out and didn't bring
I was
it with
paying
me.
attention.
With that being
It's like
said, we have a
section
motion, a second to go into
14
executive
or
session.
something.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned to executive session regarding personnel. Thank you.